Welcome, everybody, to day 3 of the BigBlueButton World 2024 conference. Our keynote kickoff for day 3 is Steve Ruiz, who is the founder, architect, chief designer, creator, originator for tldraw, a really awesome React-based drawing application, which in our opinion is best in class. And it was because we built it into BigBlueButton. And we have been working on it now with Steve and his team for probably close to 2 years. So tldraw is an infinite canvas component for React. Steve has a background of 5 arts and previously worked at Farmer and Play. And he's going to share with us the roadmap and cool stuff coming for tldraw in 2024. Steve, I give the microphone over to you.
Cool. Yeah. Hello, I'm Steve. I am founder of tldraw, background as a kind of a product designer. I know I only have 20 minutes, so I'm going to kind of move quite quickly. In this talk, the plan is basically just to catch you up on what tldraw is and kind of like what's new with tldraw and some of the kind of the fun things that we've been working on. tldraw is it's a couple of things. It's an SDK at tldraw.dev. This is something that, again, you can kind of incorporate this whiteboard into any React application. So it is really just, if you're familiar with the way that React works or front-end development works, it really is just like a component that you can just drop right into your project in order to get all of tldraw, that whole feature, multiple pages, undo, redo, copy, paste, crazy arrows, all the details that we've put into tldraw could be yours, just through a little bit of JavaScript. And the idea, as is shown with BigBlueButton, is to really take this thing, which is like a very difficult sort of complicated part of a user interface, and basically box it up as a commodity, so that pretty much anyone can have this level of quality experience inside of their product. Normally, when I pitch people on tldraw, I'm like, if you wanted to build like Miro for teachers or something like that, or if you wanted to build a collaborative education product or something, of that product, about like 80% of it, 90% of it, or at least of that feature, is going to be like identical to a different company that wanted to build the same thing. Right. So if you can think of all the different products that use a kind of like Figma-like, Miro-like user interface, like, there's going to be something special here. This is going to be where okay, well, we want our teachers and students to have certain permissions, or we want to do video recording or something like that. Or maybe over here, it's like, well, we want to have these certain design tools or fonts, in our app. But they would all have the same, I don't know, undo, redo, or they might all have the same copy and paste. They might all have the same, zooming in, zooming out, as well as some like really tricky things, like maybe some of what I'll show in a moment, that tldraw does for it. So it's an SDK. It's designed to be extended and, to allow you to do custom things with it. It's also like just a website. So again, this is a little bit technical, but like, the website is made up of like little containers, divs, text, just normal like website stuff that you see when you go to a website. Very unusually, tldraw chose I chose to use that same type of like, normal HTML stuff, right? Like every one of these things is like a React component. It's just this, even though it looks like a canvas, even though it looks like a design tool, it's actually made up of the same stuff as like a regular website would be, which is fun because that means that you can do regular website stuff quite easily, such as like, let's say you wanted to put a YouTube video, like right there on the canvas. I'll do this in, oh no, good God, stop. Just give me a normal music, give me a normal YouTube video, right? Okay. I'm in England, so they're going to give me this. I could just drop that and put it right onto the canvas. And I could still do like design things, canvas things, like I could stick an arrow to it, and move it around. I could draw on top of it. But I could also, sorry if this is loud, but I could also play the video like right there on the canvas, because it's, it's a normal website. It's the same as youtube.com in that regard. And that alone is pretty powerful for an SDK, because it means that you can create your own types of shapes that are like, complicated, but also just the same code as you might have somewhere else in your website, or just the same feature set that you would want to have from a website. You can have buttons and videos and images and all that stuff, because it's just like, yeah, you just create your own little custom guy here, and then you can run with it. So it's kind of like briefly what tldraw is. In terms of what's new, there's actually kind of quite a lot, and it's kind of fun. And I say new, but really new since we launched this 2.0 in, I think, November, and then have been adding to it since then. So the first big change versus maybe a couple of months ago has to do with performance. Because it's a normal website, the kind of the threshold for performance in the past has been, well, it's not necessarily low, but it's just like, it's really hard to make a high performance website. Like, websites aren't really designed to have thousands of things on there and to have those things be updating and scaling and moving around the canvas, like, or around the page, like, constantly. But we have been able to significantly extend the number of shapes and the performance of those shapes across the canvas. So I'll make a couple of thousand here. I think before it was a limit of 2,000. Now it's up to 5,000, I think, last time. And that's great, because especially if you're doing like handwriting and other things, like, you want to be able to have all these little marks and still be able to zoom in and out and do all this stuff very, very quickly and very efficiently. In a previous version of this, in order to like account for just the performance, like, one of the hard things is like popping things in and out of the canvas. So what would happen is you'd scroll over to the side and you would see, I wonder if this is actually on BigBlueButton's canvas. Get me back. There we go. Basically, you'd see like a bunch of gray boxes until your camera stopped moving. And that's when we would load in all of the shapes that previously we had like hidden, right? Like, because you only want to show what's on the screen, and you don't want to necessarily be rendering the things that are off the screen. So you'd pan over here and it would just be a bunch of gray boxes, and then it would like pop in. But we've been able to make the canvas so fast that like we no longer have to do that anymore. Even if it's like, even if I double the number of shapes on the canvas, like, it's still really, really, really fast. And I don't know exactly how many this is, but it's probably, I don't know. Let me duplicate it again. Eventually I'll hit 6,000, right? And this is just like, I'm very, very happy with the kind of the quality that we've done so far. And of course, that's a fairly extreme example of like many, 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 many overlapping shapes. But for like average use case, it should be pretty straightforward. One of the other things that we added, though, especially for, I can imagine the video algorithm is probably having some trouble with this type of content, noisy content. But it's a good example of like, there are a whole bunch of shapes that really you can kind of think about as like one big shape. Often what happens is folks are doing handwriting, and they're generating hundreds of little shapes as they're writing. And then, the canvas can kind of like struggle with like such high number of shapes. And what they really want to do is just say like, just turn this all into the same shape. Just treat this like an image. And now we can do that. So you can right click on content like this. Let me do that again with a bigger UI. And then flatten it. When you flatten, basically we just turn this into one or more images. And we do this based on a kind of a clustering algorithm. So I think actually I might even flatten this again. And there. Now we have like a single image, a single shape. I can even like crop this. I think this is somewhat new. So yeah, all of those shapes are turned into one, basically like JPEG, like just normal image shape, which I can still scale and move around and do all these things, but I can't select individual shapes anymore. But from a performance level, this is preferable. And, even from like editing, how you think of these things, and, making sure that you can erase it as a group rather than erasing each individual thing could be preferable. So that's new. There's also a really interesting, I think it's interesting, thing with dynamic size in tldraw. So if I go to like Google Maps and grab a big screenshot of like the map here, although I could also just, I'll do it this way. I'll just paste in the map because, again, it's a website, so I can actually interact with the map here inside of tldraw. But let's say I wanted to like annotate this map and add some notes to it. Well, the way that things work right now with like the settings that I have at the moment are, I could say, okay, so this is like our general neighborhood over here, right? This is whatever, Finsbury Park. And then I'm going to zoom in kind of to where our office is here, right by the faltering fullback. And I'd say like, this is our office here. But of course, my ink is like really big because I'm zoomed in. It's sort of like our eye is very close to the canvas. What we can do is use this new dynamic size feature. Let me bring it back. Our new dynamic size feature right here. And what dynamic size will do is it'll adjust the size and scale of the shapes that we make to match the zoom that we're at. So I'm at 100% zoom. It should look before like, hello. But if I zoom in, then it should also kind of look the same as it did before relative to the user interface. But of course, relative to like the shape that I made at 100%, this new shape is much smaller. It should be exactly 1/8 the scale of what it was at 100%. And that works out as well. If I wanted to zoom out, I could also do, again, hello. But this should be, whatever, 10 times as big as the thing at 100%. So this is really useful for folks who want to like add detail, like, here's my house, or like if there are schematics and diagrams and you want to be able to like, operate at different scales and kind of put notes that are smaller. And this works with all the shapes, by the way. I can make, squares and circles and arrows and all that stuff. And it's all relative to your zoom size. It's also really like for the folks who actually do use tldraw for its namesake and drawing, like if you wanted to, this is a feature that I borrowed from actual drawing apps. So excuse my nice trackpad art here, but like often this is exactly what drawing apps will do in order to allow for this sort of like, fine detail work that happens in a drawing workflow. So that is also new. We have done a bunch of improvements to sticky notes. So sticky notes look different now. They also have a couple of new controls around the edges so that you can either click or you can click and drag and create new notes. You'll notice that they kind of click together into a grid automatically. Even if you have a couple, little trick is whatever one is beneath your cursor, that's the one that it's going to sort of like use to determine where to click. So this one clicks the whole group there, but if I was dragging this one instead, then now that's the one that kind of clicks into the grid. They look different. There's also a little bit of like, let's see if I can reproduce this adjustment that could be done here. It's hard to describe, but you'll see it. Like my favorite city is Amsterdam, right? Previously, and by the way, like if you make a long note, like it just gets longer, right? That's just our case. It doesn't shrink the text in order to fit it into a normal Post-it note size. The Post-it note just magically gets longer. But there were cases where like having a long word would kind of cause it to break, onto the next line. But that's no longer the case. We do slightly adjust the font size in order to keep long words on the same line. You'll probably never notice it, but you probably would have noticed it if it kind of like broke the word in the middle. And so this was like the best of both worlds. There are also a couple of keyboard-driven interactions in tldraw that are new. So we have think you can use the tab key to move over this way and the shift tab key to move backwards. You can also do command enter to go down and then shift command enter to go up. And so you can kind of move around this way. If there's no card there, then it'll just make one. So if you did want to make a whole bunch of grid shapes like that, then you could. Although I realize the spacing for created shapes like that is not correct on this version. So yeah, that's new. Sticky notes. Of course, there's still a whole bunch of like kind of AI stuff that we're also playing with. None of this is in tldraw right now, but oh yeah, there's also a heart. You need a heart. So there you go. But for example, we have a website called makereal.tldraw.com where we're basically using tldraw as the input to language models. We're also playing around with using tldraw as the output for language models, and kind of both in a way that allows the language model to like auto-complete your work or just work with you as a collaborator. It's kind of fun. But assuming I have all my stuff, the way that this works, if you want to play with it, again, it's at makereal.tldraw.com. You draw some stuff, you select it, you click a button, and this sends it to either OpenAI or Anthropic, and it takes your diagrams and kind of turns it into a prototype. So in this case, I want to like have this like list of things that when I click on a thing, it kind of gets bigger and encloses any other existing thing that's open. And here we go. It just made one. I'll show you from the other. Show you the GPT-4 one as well. Maybe we'll see this load in because it's kind of a fun experience watching it slowly get built in front of us. But let's see how. Yeah, that's exactly what we wanted, and it was created in front of us by, here's the GPT-4 one coming in, and yeah, this is it's one of the things you can do with tldraw because of the way that it's built. I'll show you the other trick. So in this competition, Anthropic's Claude model wins definitely because it's correctly interactive. For some reason, the GPT-4 one is not, so that's too bad for the GPT-4. But I'll show you what else you can do here. Is you could annotate, like make this red, right? And in the same way that we use this as like the input, what it did is basically just took a it took a screenshot of this and it sent it to the model saying like, hey, you're a web developer. Take this screenshot that take this these wireframes that you just got and come back with a single page HTML file that kind of makes it into a real working prototype. And then this is what we got back. But now we're going to create a new screenshot based on what they sent us before plus our annotation. And we're going to use that as a new prompt. Actually, I'll do it for both models at the same time, just for fun. We'll do it to a new prompt to both. I think this is one's going to be Claude and this one's going to be GPT-4, and ask it to incorporate our feedback. This feedback that you can give it, these annotations can be everything from interaction notes to asking for the model itself to be changed or the display to be changed, but otherwise it'll just work on what it's worked on before. And yeah, both of the models got it right. Wonderful. People have used this to make video games and all sorts of stuff. So I'm very, very excited about the kind of potential of using tldraw, not only as a place to work and to collaborate for free, and for people to build on as an SDK, but also as a sort of like environment to kind of play with the visual side of interactions with language models. Like this stuff is like super fun and highly recommended to go to this makereal.tldraw.com. It is a blast. So there's that. I'm kind of looking at the clock thinking I might be at getting close to time. Is that right, Fred?
You are. The next session will start actually in about 7 minutes, but
Okay.
Steve, take the full 7 minutes.
All right. I mean, if people are into it. Yeah, if there was any questions or anything that I can help out with, happy to take those. What do you think, Fred?
I think just keep showing what's possible,
Okay.
because we it
All
sort
good.
of shows like the value of having done with TL or worked with tldraw. And just for
Yeah.
everybody on the call, like the tldraw version we have is as of December. Steve's
Mhm.
showing a lot of cool stuff that's in the commercial or like the later version of tldraw, which we're trying to figure out how we can sort of take advantage of in the Big Blue Button project. But you always want to pick a project that has got legs and is growing and is just sort of taking it off. And that is tldraw. Like there's a story behind the project where like Steve was just yourself for like many years, you know, just working on like arrows between shapes.
Yeah.
And then it took off. So yeah, like share with us whatever you like in the next couple minutes.
That sounds good. I'm trying to see whether we have any of the other AI type of stuff ready. One of the things we did, sorry, this may devolve into showing Twitter stuff. We are, by the way, not a huge advocate for the platform itself, but most of our stuff is posted onto Twitter like constantly. One of our some of the big stuff that we've been working on is, again, like getting a model to act on the canvas, kind of like agentically, like like responding to prompts. Give me 4 more houses. Draw me houses, or draw the sun, and so forth. So teaching language models to like update things, create things, delete things, move things around, and it is shockingly okay at doing that. Another thing that we've been doing with the canvas is sort of really using it more as like a video game engine, because it's just stuff on the canvas that can be moved around programmatically. You can do things like build games, build multiplayer games, just kind of have scripts that move things around. We have also I wanted to show you one more thing here. And other folks have also been building these sort of bizarre kind of like visual spreadsheets and visual computers. I wish I had I think this is called holograph.com. I'm not sure. I don't want to go to that just in case. We've also been playing with alternative input. So here I am here playing with a pinch-based UI for for the browser, and this does work. It's just I think I posted a link here where, let's see. Boop. All right, the is a little strange, but yeah, you could try it out at together, whatever, this URL. Put it here and try and make it big. Together, Steve Ruiz, tldraw, Vercel app, something like that. You can also just find it on our Twitter, but it is this like weirdly fun, although not currently. I think I have my math wrong. Infinitely scrolling drawing app that you uses your camera and uses a model in order to do that. And yeah, we've been the thing that I would have wanted to show was this. Maybe you saw the announcement from Apple where they were showing the calculator that you could draw, and it would turn it into like solve the problem like on the canvas. And we have been doing a ton of work with that, both apparently using real whiteboards where, even though this is a video, it's just streaming into the canvas here. And let's see if I can jump to some of the more impressive calculator stuff. Yeah, where we have, in this case, we're using bees and asking it what the answer is. And the fun part is that because they're fun language models, and it turned out that it was interpreting these stripes as Roman numerals. So like the fact that it's a language model, like drawing with a model, like you just take advantage of like everything that it knows, plus all of its own abilities to pattern recognize. So for example, yeah, here we have 3 plus 8 is 11. 3 plus iPad pencil is 4, of course. 3 plus 2 is 5, right? So like it's, and if you turn that 8 sideways in order to use it as an infinity sign, I think it says infinity, right? Because it's, of course. And yeah, similarly, like, I don't know, we had like a place where we were doing something like, 3 plus, like a drawing of a octopus, and it would come up with like, well, this octopus is like, it has 8 legs, so let's just treat it as an 8 and come up with 11. So we haven't like launched that demo yet, but I'm looking forward to it, because it is, again, if you saw the Apple example, it's pretty amazing, and like, yeah, it just is incredible to have that experience with a AI or language model or something on the canvas. And it seems to be a really exciting use of the technology that we've made, which is just like this obsessively created, highly kind of like polished, I would say, commodity form of a whiteboard. And I'm very excited to see it being used by blindside networks and by BigBlueButton. And yeah, can't wait to see what more they do with it. It really is designed to be like expanded on. So I'm sure they'll make some cool stuff. And I think that's my time.
Steve.
That's my show.
Look, everybody give it up for Steve. Steve, this is your 3rd year presenting. I would,
Yeah.
Who would have thought like 2 years ago where you were then and where you are now, and what does that bode for like the next 2 years? So super cool to just see all the directions that tldraw is going in. It is so impressive. So hats off to yourselves. Really appreciated you shared some time to show people what was working, latest in sort of tldraw, and encourage everybody to go check out Steve's website, tldraw, go to Make Real. Keep up to date on the project. I think it shows what's possible when you really put your heart into something. And Steve, you've got a big heart.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Cool.